So this is something that we talk about a lot here.
Yeah.
And we recently had an employee engagement survey. We do the surveys every year. And we've identified that performance evaluation is an area of opportunity for us across the whole organization. Mm-hmm. We do things a little bit differently in our department than the rest of the organization. And we have found that there's room for improvement. So what we try to tell supervisors, managers, is to not think about a performance review as a once a year thing, where you sit down with somebody and you say, okay, here's how you did, and I'm going to give you this rating, which is tied to this percentage of compensation. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes that can create angst, anxiety, surprise, a whole range of emotions. And so the way that we do it here is that we encourage managers to have an ongoing conversation. A regular part of your regular meetings with your manager should be touching base about performance. And we encourage people to give immediate feedback. So if something happens, maybe it wasn't as expected, or maybe somebody did something really positive that you want to reinforce. Either way, we ask them to give that feedback immediately, because we're human beings, and if we wait till the end of the year, we're really only going to be recalling the last few months and not the whole year, and that's not really fair to people. So in addition to sort of thinking about, in my regular meetings with the people who report to me, we're always touching base on performance. In this organization, there is a standardized tool that we use. It's an online tool. You do have to rank people in certain ratings. It's everything from you exceeded expectations, you achieved and sometimes exceeded, you met expectations, or you require some development or some learning. And so one of the things that we want to work on is making sure that there's a level setting process that goes on amongst all of the managers, so that what I'm thinking of in my mind is somebody who exceeds is similar to what my peers and other managers are thinking about in terms of exceeds. And that's important because we want some consistency around that, and we want to make sure that it's a fair and equitable process, as fair as it can be, given that it's somewhat subjective, and there's really no way around that. But we try to make it as objective as possible. And over this next year, we're going to be having more of those kind of level-setting conversations around the organization.
So the actual ranking, you're still just doing that once a year and just having the conversations that build up to that throughout.
Exactly. So the way our tool works, it's an online tool, and they'll open the tool up in November.
Okay.
And so then we have from November until December to have these conversations and then actually go in and write things up. I tend to take notes throughout the year so that I'm not relying just on memory. But I use a kind of a discussion planner. It's a tool that when I meet with my people who report to me on a monthly basis, I'm writing down things, I'm making myself notes, and it's very easy to go back to that. And I also ask them to do the same thing. So over the year, write down your accomplishments, write down your successes, write down the things that you are working toward in terms of your professional goals. So that it's easy at the end of the year where we can make sure that we're accurately capturing everything. The other thing that we do here is we use SMART goals. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, with that too.
Okay, so we set SMART goals for everybody. I think it's at least two. Most people have 2 to 3. I think our minimum is 2. And the SMART goal can be related to something that you want to do professionally, directly related to your work. Like I want to, create a white paper to expand my program and create a pro forma. Or it can be something a skill that you want to develop professionally. Like I want to work on my oral presentation skills. And so then you come up with a plan for, it has to be measurable. How are you going to do that? What is the evidence, so that when you look back at the end of the year, you can say, yes, I met that goal. No, I didn't meet that goal. But it's really intended to help people grow and to develop. And this year, we have asked everybody in the clinical integration division to have at least one SMART goal that's related to employee engagement. So we're trying to strengthen a culture of engagement here. And we communicate with folks that it's everybody's responsibility. So you're accountable for your own level of engagement. I'm accountable for my own level of engagement. And if I manage somebody or a team of people, I'm responsible and accountable for creating an engaged culture for that team. And then, so ideally, if we all come to the table ready to engage and to contribute to an engaged culture, then hopefully we're being successful, and that we're not creating a culture that's negative or that's that people don't want to work in.
Yeah.
Well, the performance reviews tie back to our competency-based position descriptions. We do performance reviews every year, and in the context of the performance review, we have a 3-year professional development plan for each staff person, from the admins right on up through me.
Yeah.
So we ask for self-assessment, where people score themselves on what their responsibilities have been, what their productivity is, the quality of their work, the strengths they bring to the position, the things they've learned or done differently this year over a prior year, whether or not they did what was in their performance improvement plan for the prior year, and what they see wanting to do in the coming year. And then the supervisor sits down with the employee and they have a conversation. My rule of thumb is there shouldn't be any surprises in this conversation. I don't think it serves any of us if you walk into a performance review and this is the first time you found out that somebody didn't like that you were doing A, B, or C. There really should be no surprises. You might put more emphasis on it in an annual review, or you might say, we've been talking about this or that, and for this year, the way I want you to address that is to do this very specific thing. So we have that conversation. We work up an updated 3-year professional development plan, and then the supervisor adds comments, the staff person adds comments, and it gets sent to the HR file. And then over the course of the year, when the staff person wants to enroll in a class or go to a conference or has a step they're taking that is in fulfillment of that professional development plan, they include, they reference that in the email where they're asking for permission to spend the funds or to go wherever. And as long as what they're doing is tied to it and fits with the expectations, then we will usually be able to approve it. So we have, one person who's an RN who just finished her bachelor's in nursing. And we were helping with tuition for that. We have another person who's been taking instructional design classes from a school in California online. But, fabulous for her, great for us, all kinds of things. But we want everyone to know that we are willing to invest in them, but we also ask a lot of them. But it's a very mutual environment, and I think we tend to keep people for quite a while.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For years, the years that I was at an administrator and was evaluating the senior level staff, so these are folks who are, middle-aged people, they've been doing their jobs for a long time. I felt like the most helpful things would be for me to give them a narrative, going through specific topics like supervisory skills, strategic planning for their departments, because we had 5 departments in the facility. As you can imagine, nursing, dietary, maintenance, housekeeping. And then just writing out goals that I thought they had achieved, strengths that they had, and then identifying areas where I thought they could do more. Not so much from a weakness or a failing standpoint, because these people were all very experienced. More like, okay, what do we need to do in order to be the best facility that we can be? Mm-hmm. Let's keep track of these items and see what progress we're making. As a manager, I invested a lot of time in those performance evaluations. I do think it was difficult for them to translate that information into something truly workable in terms of their own professional growth and development. And I don't have a good answer for you. Some of that, I think, is just the personality of the staff person, whether they feel like it's a goal for them to improve. Because if it is, they're going to do the work. And if not, some people are fine with maintaining a status quo. And that's maybe one of those organizational culture issues that need to be dealt with.
I've conducted a number of performance reviews. I think one of the key strategies is anything that you bring up in a performance review should not be a surprise. You should be working with that person constantly of positive or room for improvement, having that dialogue and giving them a real chance to improve or to know that they are doing really well. And especially if there's room for improvement, being very clear around what that means and very tangible so that person understands. As both a supervisor and getting feedback myself, that it needs to be tangible. We're adult learners, we need to know, and working on that. And one of the things I've learned recently is, as a manager, you don't necessarily have to solve the issue. It's really important to ask that person, how do you think, what things do you need to be successful in this? Because especially if it's something they're very aware that they know what they need for help. And I don't, as a manager, don't have to solve that. I need to pull that out of them. And it also gets to their buy-in, that they understand it's a place that they can improve, and that they have a role in getting there. As a supervisor, it's not just on me. And I think the biggest thing about performance reviews and all of that kind of thing is being from a place that everybody wants to do a good job, and that as a manager, it's our job to figure out how to make that happen. And to the extent we can, we do. But if it's really not compatible, again, back to that scenario of people want a defined job, but it's not, that's something we really can't fix. And so having a conversation around, it's not a good match. What do we do next? Which is challenging, but can be very rewarding when it works, depending on how receptive people are. But that's also part of it. It's not easy to be on the receiving end.
So each year I do three or four performance reviews. I think it's a really worthwhile tool. It gives the opportunity for staff to talk about what's worked well in the past year and what has been challenging, and to set goals for the upcoming year. And it's a tool that staff hopefully have the chance to tell me what has been going well in terms of what I could do better as a supervisor, as well as what they've struggled with work-wise and what developing any plans or strategies to improve that. We use the performance review to set goals such as professional development goals or even just project goals, whether they want to do a different kind of analysis or take the lead on a project. So we use that time to set those. And so I've always found it to be a very positive experience, and it's an opportunity to talk frankly with staff about what's been happening over the past year.
Nice. So everyone sets a goal to complete each year. Do you go back and look at those the following year?
Yes, I mean, ideally, we would be looking at them on an ongoing basis. Because sometimes we set a goal to just take maybe a professional development course, and then a year goes by and it's like, oops, that didn't happen because people forget. So we've been trying more to keep those goals in the back of our mind. And another nice thing with meeting with staff on an ongoing basis is they can say, well, one of my goals was to take the lead on a project. Do you see that happening, or what can I take the lead on? Or one of my goals this year was to learn how to do this specific thing. So we have opportunities throughout the year to also reflect back on those goals.